All right. Call to order. The governing board meeting was called at 5 p.m. Let the record reflect that trustee Ahmad has joined the meeting via remote location via telecom. Everybody stand for the flag salute, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Let the record reflect that trustee Chong, trustee Shed, trustee Frutos, and Dr. Miramontes are present from the meeting in the district boardroom, and trustee Ahmad is present via telecom conference. With trustee Ahmad participating via teleconference, please note that all votes at tonight's meeting will be taken by roll call. Approval of agenda. It's recommended that the governing board approve the agenda of June 13th, 2022, governing board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Is there any discussion? With no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item with roll call votes. Trustee Chong,
Yeah, aye.
aye. Ms. Shed, Ms. Ahmad,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of minutes, approval of May 9th, 2022, regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2022, regular meeting?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, the item will be moved to approve with the roll call. Trustee Chong,
Aye.
Shed,
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of May 28th, 2022, special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes of the May 28th, 2022 special meetings?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Any discussion? With no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item with roll call votes. Trustee Chong?
Aye.
Ms. Shed?
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Governing board comments. We'll start with Ms. Ahmad via teleconference.
No major comments. I haven't been able to do much from my end over here, but I'm really excited to be able to have this opportunity to Zoom in for this meeting. And I'd like to thank the district and Dr. Miramontes for making that happen.
Thanks, Ahmad. Mr. Chong.
Yeah, summer started, so I hope everyone is safe and resting and traveling and enjoying in somewhat of a normal summer first time back. I know summer school or summer academy started today, as well as just a lot of programs moving forward. So I just hope that everyone continues to stick to it and enjoy the learning that could happen. And if you're not in summer school, I know there was a summer choice board put out there. So I hope you, if you don't know about it, would take a look at that and take the summer to learn still. Don't, healthy minds, healthy bodies. So keep that in mind as you're enjoying your summer. To all the district folk, because that's where I'm connected. Keep going. Summer grind isn't over for all of us, but I hope you guys can stay strong with that. And I'm just looking forward to just what's to come with all the new building facilities and all these things that are kind of happening over the summer. I think we're going to come back to an awesome school year. So I hope people prepare for that. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Shed.
Well, I'm excited about summer school starting also. I saw in the Friday report such a great investment in our staff in preparation for both summer school and for the fall, so that was exciting. And it's so wonderful to see how many opportunities there are for our students to participate this summer. It was wonderful, all our partners and of course our staff. And not only for those who are going to school, but for those who are at home also, so that's fantastic. On May the 12th, I went to the State of the City, and each city council member goes out into the city and makes a video highlighting a feature in Buena Park. And Councilman Connor Trout was with Dr. Miramontes at Whitaker, and they described the joint park expansion project that's going on between the two of us, which was exciting. On May 14th, my husband and I went to the foundation's casino night and enjoyed the evening. And on May 18th, I joined our 4 board members at the Employee Recognition Celebration, where we honored our employees for their years of service, the Teachers of the Year, and our retirees. May 21st, I visited the Gate Super Saturday, and it was at Emory, and there were 80 students there. And it was great to see they had like 4 or 5 different areas that they would rotate through. And the kids were focusing on biomechanics. And it was so exciting because they showed how you study nature to address the problems of today. They had like 2 frogs, for example, at one of the stations. And these frogs are able to stick to wet surfaces, like, on glass or on, trees, of course, what have you. But they have researched that to see how to make tires stick better to the road during, inclement conditions. So it was and that was just one of the stations. Every time I went to a new one, I was like blown away. It was a fantastic opportunity. Only 80 kids were there. They had 100 slots. So I hope next time more kids will be able to participate in this great learning. Later that day, I visited Beatty, where our district was hosting the Federation Scholastic Chess Tournament. And there were 81 kids there from all over Southern California. And we had kids from Whitaker and Emory and both of the middle schools. And there were even, there was a kid there from Tijuana. They were just from all over. And they were from 4 years old to 18. And I was surprised how many 4-year-old kids were competing. But it was great to see. On June the 1st, I attended the promotions for the Buena Park Middle School and the Beatty Middle School at Buena Park High School. And then later that week, I attended the 5th grade promotions for Quarry and Whitaker. And on June the 3rd, I went to a National Gun Awareness Rally that was hosted by Assemblywoman Sharon Cook Silva and Senator Josh Newman. And they were it was 10 days after the Texas shooting. And Assemblywoman Cook Silva was, she called up all the school council board members who were there from very, Fullerton and La Habra, Cypress, just a very variety of cities. And she said, these people are on the front lines of what's going on here, because school administrators and board members and staff have to look for ways to make our children safe at school. And this is such a horrific agenda that we have to address. And so I was just really excited to see how many people were there. And I just hope that something will be done, something effective will be done to protect our students. So that was it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. I think Ms. Shedd covered a lot of what I was going to cover, so thank you. But it's been an exciting 2 weeks or this last month. Everybody's getting ready for the end of the year. So before I continue, I want to make sure to thank every school site, our school district office, all departments, associations, parent groups, and especially all of the students for all their hard work throughout the entire year. I know we've gone through a lot, but as a team and as a community, we've come together and we rallied around everything that's going on and push each other to be better and strive for better things, as individuals, but also as a community and as a school district. So thank you very much to everyone. I had the opportunity to participate at Pendleton. Miss Yaffe's 3rd graders had a little music showcase with their recorders, and I was just blown away with how cool that was. It was a little windy, the notes were flying around, and I saw one student still playing the recorder with one hand and trying to figure out where the notes were. So, it's just talent is there, and whenever I see musical talent, or I always appreciate it because, like I've always said, I am not a talented person when it comes to that aspect. So seeing somebody else being talented, it always brings joy to me when I see any of that. But they did a fantastic job. They did a 15-minute little show for the families, and it was really neat to see that first thing in the morning. I also had the opportunity to attend the Buena Park Middle School graduation, and had the honor to speak to the class of 2022. And typical Mr. Fruto style, I crashed a few photo picture sessions at the end, just to have a little fun with them as they go on to bigger and bigger things at the high school level. So that's always a neat little experience for me. And you're just seeing the students just kind of growing from the last 2-3 years, and from where they started to where they're ended, it's a big milestone accomplishment to see them go through all that. And then I also, going through the Friday report, I saw a lot of great stuff. I saw a lot of our staff members are doing professional development days. I think those are crucial to any line of business, especially educators. That's one way for us to better ourselves, just not as individuals, but it helps us build, a stronger team when we come back to our school sites. We always have something to learn, something to teach. Even if you show up to these events and you already know these things, you can still be the educator to those that are learning it for the first time. So there's a lot of growth involved in all that. And I really appreciate it. I know when I do them here with our district, I always come out a better person when it comes to the professional development day. So hopefully everybody takes advantage of those. And I look forward to hearing all the exciting news and everything that they learned from those days. So I look forward to that. And then I love seeing that we continued the 20 days on the choice board. It's a nice little touch that coincides with the 20 days of the extended school year, extended learning year. So that's always nice. It keeps the family something to do, the students something to do, keeps their minds moving a little bit, still growing and thinking. But it's summertime. A lot of us want to go on vacation, but at the same time, it's still a great time to still keep our minds fresh with learning opportunities. And then lastly, I do want to thank Dr. Miramontes for sending out the message to reassure everybody about the safety protocols and measures taking place to ensure safety of everyone in our school district. So thank you for that. And thank you for visiting the school sites and providing those resources for anybody that did need any services needed during these tough times that are going on, because you never know who's going to need them. But I did appreciate you sending out, letting our community know that everything is well taken care of here at the Buena Park School District. And then lastly, one more thing, I did participate with the Buena Park Collaborative. They had an active shooting session with Officer Oscar, and he brought to light a lot of the things that go on. And I really appreciate the partnership that we have with the city of Buena Park and the police department. They train our staff here. We go through active shooting drills. They do a lot of the training, and he mentioned to us that in any scenario that happens, they're out there within 30 seconds to a minute, because they actually have SWAT members on patrol. So they can get to us rather quickly and effectively in case something were to happen. But just in general, that partnership, is really important. I know Dr. Miramontes does a great job fostering that relationship with the meeting with the chief and city manager, Mr. Aaron France. So thank you for that as well. And that concludes my report. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I have a special visitor in the room. For those of you back at home watching, Mr. Andy Weber, who retired this school year, asked me how we finished the school year. We finished strong. I'm very proud of how we started the year. We did everything we could in preparation for it, but I am really extremely proud of our staff, of our parents, and of our students. We finished stronger than how we started, and that's how it should be. So nice to see you, Mr. Weber. Thank you for being here. We are in the midst of planning for the upcoming school year. So as I tell my cabinet, we've got 9 weeks before our students come back to school. I'm excited about that. A little nervous because if you drive around our campuses, they're torn up everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of construction going on, but I feel confident in our construction management team. I feel confident in our chief operations officer and staff members that are going to make this happen. Drove around at 6 o'clock this morning and visited the school sites just to see what was happening, because I was out sick on Thursday and Friday, so I missed a couple of days there. But I want to see the progress, and just even over a weekend, a lot was accomplished. Again, planning for the new school year also includes finding incredible talent, right? Talent that's going to make your organization better. Tonight, we're going to bring forward a couple of talented staff members that are going to join our team. We're super excited. Mr. Harrison, our Chief Personnel Officer, will talk a little bit more about that, but I am really excited about that. And then I just want to thank our board. We've been through a lot this last year. Our students have been a lot. I don't know if anybody ever says thank you to you guys, but thank you for what you do. Farwa, way out where you're at as well. Thank you for your support and guidance and your collective efforts to put students first. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. Moving on to programs and reports. Early Learning Program update, Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Personnel Officer. This is Dr. Yvette Cantu, and this is Mary Beckelheimer, the Administrator for the Early and Expanded Learning Programs.
Good
Chief
evening.
Academic Officer.
Yeah. Good evening, Board President, Mr. Futros, board members, the Superintendent Miramontes, Cabinet, and our esteemed visitors here. Mary Beckelheimer has an update from her early in the year presentation about our take back plan for our early learning programs, which includes both our preschool and other learning all the way to TK and expanded through third grade. When we first presented to you, was focusing on our take back plan, which originally started when we first opened preschools, that for a short amount of time, we would have consultants such as Think Together Group support us with instructors and making sure that they follow through with enrollment to meet our contract. The time has been for us to take back that early learning program now that early learning is on a national scale of recognition for the benefit that all of our students have really universal access to early learning prior to enrolling in kindergarten. This time, we'd like to do more of a specific update regarding the plans for each site's program, as well as fees connected to fee-based parent involvement, full-day programs, as well as our subsidized program, as we expand early learning to have access at every site. Ms. Beckelheimer?
Thank you, Dr. Cantu. Good evening, Board President, Fructose, governing board members, cabinet, honored guests. It's a pleasure to be here to further talk about our progress in bringing our early learning programs to every site, and really excited at the progress we've made since we really decided to do this back in January. So today, I'll briefly talk about how we established what programs will be at each site, and then also the rationale behind our fee structure as well. Slide, please. So we determined the best placement for all of the programs that we wanted to offer. And what you see before you is a list of all the programs by site. So at Corey School, we will have a full day classroom for 2-year-olds. We'll also have a second full day classroom for our 3- and 4-year-old students. And that will contain, both of those will contain both fee-based, 100% fee-based, but also a CSP wraparound program. And I'll explain that a little bit. And then we will also have the option for a fully subsidized CSBP full day program as needed. At Gilbert, Pendleton, and Whitaker, we'll continue to have our part day AM and PM programs. We have established that we will have 2-year-old classrooms. And the reason behind that is because developmentally, they have different needs, and they will need a different type of program. And so those 2-year-old programs will be at Gilbert in the AM and at at Whitaker in the AM. The reason we chose AM is because the little ones still do nap, and it's a 3-hour program. So napping is not something that you are able to do in the CSPP program in a 3-hour program. At Emory, we will have our parent participation fee-based program in the AM. This is for 3 and 4-year-old families, families with 3 and 4-year-olds. The children do have to be potty trained in this program, and parent participation is required. And the reason is that we can keep a low fee for that program. And we'll go into that a little bit as well. And then to fill out that staff's day, we will be offering the CSPP Part Day program at the Buena Park Learning Center. We wanted to continue to offer the program there because we still have our special education preschool on that site. And this gives us opportunities for inclusion and mingling of kids with the general population in our self-contained special day class for students with moderate to severe disabilities. Slide, please. So a little bit of the development of this plan for programs at all sites and why we had to go to a fee-based structure to be included in this. The CSPP contract is a finite amount. And so we were offering our part day programs, AM and PM, at 4 sites. That finite amount doesn't change, but we wanted to stretch that out as far as we could go. And so we did that. And then we also have added some fee-based programming so that we can fill out the cost it will take to operate these programs. The goal was to have a program at all sites, including the PPLC. Our early learning parent survey, we really got a lot of information from that survey back in January. We shared a lot of that with you, and a big need was shown for full day programs, as well as programming for individuals that don't qualify for our CSPP programs. And we wanted to ensure that we had a fiscally sound expansion of programs. And I want to really thank Mrs. Sandy Poteet and her fiscal department, especially Neelam Kakar, who really helped us to determine the budget that we would need for staffing, for operations, and to still keep the costs competitive and as low as possible for our families. Slide, please. So the rationale, the projected budget, as you can see, determined the costs needed to operate a fee-based preschool program. And so competitive recommended rates were determined for these 3 fee-based programs: Emory's parent participation program, the Corey full day year-round full pay program, and then our Corey full day year-round fee-based wraparound program. The rates are competitive within the Buena Park community and among the surrounding school districts. The rates are designed to attract new families to our district while remaining financially sound. Next slide, please. This is an example of the research that we did in the local community in the preschools in our surrounding, that surround our district and within our district. As you can see, the Buena Park is highlighted in green, what we determined, and this is for a monthly fee. There's a little asterisk at the bottom. This is for our part day parent participation program. And you can see that parents work in the classroom 2 days a month in order to keep those costs low. There's a smaller little blurb there. Fullerton Community Nursery School, who many of you may have heard of. They are an established parent participation preschool, fee-based. They offer a 2-day program and a 3-day program, and the fees work out to approximately $23 per 3-hour session. Our program averages about $18 per 3-hour session. And that's for our Emory program. Next slide, please. For full day, ours is, it's not the lowest cost full day. It's also not the highest cost. We did not get information on the extent of the hours for the full day at some of these sites. we kind of accepted what they gave us without, asking too many questions. But our program will be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That is offered to our families. They don't have to come at 6 a.m. and leave at 6 p.m., but the coverage is there for them. And you can see that our program, again, it is definitely not the highest, but it is on the lower end of the local preschools for full day. Next slide, please. So here are our proposed rates. And you can see up at the top for Emory Parent Participation Preschool, parents can choose the 4-day program or the 5-day program. And then for Corey's full day program, the full pay program can choose 4 or 5 days. But then the Corey Wraparound Preschool Program is a 5-day program, and I'll explain that a little bit. This is a way for us to have partially subsidized programming for students, but then parents also pay a small fee in order for their children to go full day. This gives our parents more flexibility. Not all parents with a need for preschool will qualify for a full day, fully subsidized program. There are additional requirements to qualify for that program. So the wraparound program allows for our parents who qualify for CSPP Part Day and are looking for a full day program to have that program. And this has been so far one of our most popular options that parents are interested in this. Again, for the full day, fully subsidized program, not only do you have to qualify from an income eligibility standpoint, but you also have to qualify based on need. So if parent is at home and they have other little children at home, they wouldn't qualify for the full day, even though they really would like their child to be in a program and, they have other things going on. So that CSPP Part Day wraparound option is really a beneficial one for our parents. Next. Oh, and I just want to point out, there is a registration fee, and that's common in preschools. But we are offering an employee discount of 10% and a second child or third child discount of 10% off of the original fee. Okay, next slide, please. And just a little bit about our efforts to attract interest in the programs. We've attended there's some examples of the local events that we've attended on weekends. We've had tables at open house events all across the district. We'll be doing city summer events. We're planning on being there at the Read With Me program on Wednesdays with Mrs. Milch. We have been sharing all of our progress and sharing with our community partners to get the word out at the Buena Park Collaborative, at the FIT Committee, with Help Me Grow, other options through First 5OC, which is one of our grant funders. And then we've just been utilizing all the resources that Buena Park has to offer to get the word out. And I must say we've had a huge turnout as far as interest. So we're working through all of those contacts right now. We have, enrollment is ongoing. Our Think Together Partners last day is on Wednesday. So we're transitioning over to our own staff, getting our family enrollment specialists trained. We are lucky to have our early learning consultant who knows all the ins and outs of preschool programs, and she's helping us to really get this off the ground well. So, next slide, and any questions?
I do want to let the board know that we have worked with all the school site principals. We've adjusted. We felt that the preschool classrooms should be in the classrooms that have the restrooms. And so we've placed them there. And I think we've got licensing coming out from Orange County Department of Children's Services. When?
Well, that's still in process. So we're looking at July, end of July. Then they'll probably make those visits.
Okay. So we're set up for that. I know that Louis Navarro, our operations supervisor, that was his first priority this summer as custodians, make sure all those classrooms were clean, set up and staged so that we're ready to roll. I know HR's got a piece of this, licensing and making sure we've got credentialed and permitted teachers. to do so. So we've got all the different pieces working together to make sure that when licensing does come out, we've got the stamp of approval ready to move forward with this.
Can we bring it back to the, where it had all the schools and what they would have? I'm kind of just a little surprised with the $950 for, a month. No, it's
That
the
one
one,
there?
the slide that had every school, what would it have? So which schools would have the
That's just for,
$950 fee?
I'm sorry, that's just for Corey's full day, full tuition program. So that's for families that don't qualify for a CSPP part day program or the CSPP fully subsidized full day program.
Mayor, Ms. Beckelheimer, this is 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening.
Correct, correct.
It's not just it's the preschool and extended hours also. I think there was some interest from parents that I work. I'm looking for a 6 to 6 amount of time.
Yes.
So that's why you see 2 different programs at Corey's school. And we thought because it was off of the freeway, it would lend itself a little bit better to families that do have to commute.
Yeah.
So it only be the Corey, not Gilbert or the Pendleton one.
No,
Just
At-
at Corey.
right.
Can we bring it back to the slide?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Can we bring it back to the slide that had, where each school, what type of preschool would it be?
Slide two,
This is
slide
the
two.
first
Slide two.
slide.
Yeah. Okay, so basically just Corey would have, okay. I mean, I've been to a lot of preschools. When I was looking around, that was about the price that I paid, but the classrooms were, specially made for preschools. So I just hope that we focus on that part and make sure that it's competitive also with the classroom, the toys, the educational, the restrooms, the tables. There's a lot when people are paying that amount for even a full day, though. I mean, the classroom really needs to be set up to look like the other schools that we're in comparison to.
Yes, and we in order to, first of all, to be fully licensed, we have to follow all of the different rating scales, and we have those visits that come in. We're a part of QRIS, the quality rating system for preschools. They're very, very rigorous about making sure that we are developmentally appropriate, safe, that we have all that is needed for a quality preschool program. And so I'm confident that we'll be having the highest quality in our district, and people will begin to come to our district because of our preschool programs, no doubt.
Right, and I think our QR ratings were 5 and a 4.
Correct, yes.
Typically in your first year, you don't even get a 5.
Mhm,
I believe we received a 5 our first year,
mhm.
and then the following year, in one of our schools, a 5 and a 4.
Yes,
So they've always been very high. So yeah,
And-
we expect that.
right. That whole system kind of shut down for COVID. We were just in a meeting to determine what the next steps are for this year and those quality rating visits. So we're ready.
Any other questions? Right,
Any other questions, Ms. Ahmad?
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Beckelhammer. Now moving on to hearing session. The audience members may request to address the board on an item on or off the agenda. Per Board Bylaws 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the governing board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. The total time allowed for public comment shall be 30 minutes. Audience members wishing to address the board during the hearing session of the agenda should fill out a request to address the governing board form and turn it into the executive assistant prior to the board holding the hearing session. Dr. Miramontes, is there any?
There are 3 public comments,
I do have them here. Yes, sir.
and if they're translating simultaneously, we have a translator here. I believe it's double the time, so it's 6 minutes.
Do we have Claudia Vargas?
Just to let everybody know, with Claudia and another mom. They're gonna go ahead and use their 3 minutes first, and then I'll go ahead and interpret.
Se las enseñó. Gracias.
Hola, mi nombre es Claudia Vargas. Soy madre de Kevin Emanuel Silva. Él es estudiante aprendiz de inglés que finalizó este grado, 4º grado en la escuela Corey. En la carta que les pasé ahorita, escucharán a detalle la historia de mi hijo. Kevin no es un estudiante con lenguaje de inglés fluido y día a día él y nosotros, su familia, nos enfrentamos cada tarde en la mesa por horas para que él pueda estar, para que yo le esté traduciendo lo que él se supone que tenía que aprender en la clase. Sobre cómo apoyar a nuestro hijo con sus tareas y asignaciones que le asignan en el aula, ya que las trae a casa no completadas porque en el salón no tuvo la misma oportunidad que tuvieron sus demás compañeros. Y que es adquirir el conocimiento, el lenguaje de ellos dominan el inglés, pero en el caso de Kevin, con la instrucción apropiada, apoyos extras y recursos que le permitan ir adquiriendo el currículo académico en inglés hasta lograr el nivel esperado para el grado. A la fecha, no entiendo por qué a mi hijo se le ha negado esa oportunidad, ya que estas ayudas sí existen en el programa de los aprendices de inglés en una escuela de California. Además, si los profesores o el personal encargado de instruir a los niños vieron que mi hijo no domina el inglés, ¿por qué no han hecho algo para que Kevin acceda a los servicios del programa de los aprendices de inglés? ¿Por qué? ¿Qué está pasando o qué está faltando? Miembros de la Junta del Gobierno y señor Superintendente Ramón Miramontes, estoy aquí para solicitarles de favor sea puesta su atención en el caso de mi hijo y para pedirle su apoyo para obtener una solución apropiada y adecuada para Kevin. Solicito que Kevin oficialmente sea puesto en el programa de los aprendices de inglés para que reciba los servicios del programa que necesita para adquirir el idioma inglés y por consiguiente vaya progresando académicamente al nivel esperado del grado. Además, quiero pedirles de favor que juntos hagamos un gran esfuerzo para que ni un niño más pase por esta situación que atraviesa mi hijo y también para guiar a todos aquellos padres que como yo no hemos recibido la atención necesaria y la correcta información para obtener esas ayudas para nuestros hijos que están aprendiendo inglés. Les agradezco de antemano mucho su atención por este asunto. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Honorable board members and Superintendent Ramon Miramontes. My name is Claudia Vargas. I am mom of Kevin Vargas, who is a student and an English learner. He's finishing his 4th grade, who has finished his 4th grade at Corey Elementary School. In the letter that was given to you, you will see or you will hear the history in detail of my son. Kevin, he is not a student who has fluency in the English language. And day after day, he and all of us, our family, we have to face every day, sit down at the table and face that his learning. We have to try to help him with homework and assignments that have been assigned to him. And he brings them to home not incomplete because during class time, he didn't have the opportunity that other students or other peers had. And that was to acquire his knowledge in the language that they are fluent in, which is English. And in Kevin's case, having an adequate instruction and having those supports, extra supports and resources, which would permit him or would give him the access to the curriculum, academic curriculum in English. And two, we want him to be at the level, grade level where he's expected to be. And to this day, I don't understand why my son has been denied access, has been denied the opportunity. And if these supports do exist in the program for English learners, they're available in California. And aside from that, the instructors and the staff that's in charge to instruct our kids, if they would see that my son is not fluent in English, why have they not been able to give access or give Kevin access to the program that other English learners have? Why not? What is going on and what is missing? So board members and Superintendent Miramontes, I am here to request from you all, if you could please pay attention in the case of my son and ask for support so that we can have a solution, an adequate solution for Kevin. I request that Kevin officially be placed in a program for English learners, so that he can have access to services for the program that is needed and in English, and so that he can start to progress academically at the grade level that he needs to be. Aside from that, I want to ask that we do our best or make our best efforts so that no other child goes through the same situation that my son is facing. And so that other parents, like myself, don't face the same situation. And so we can correct this, and we can have these supports for our children that are learning English. I really appreciate your attention to this, to my speech, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. Do we have Jacqueline Murillo?
Sí. Señor Jerry Frutos, presidente de la Junta de Gobierno, señora Rodia Schitt, presidenta alterna y demás miembros de la Junta, señor superintendente Ramón Miramontes, soy Jacqueline Murillo. Mi hija Cristina Ramírez es una estudiante aprendiendo inglés, quien terminó el 4º grado en la escuela Cori.
Good evening, Mr. Jerry Frutos and president of this board, and Ms. Rodita Shiad, the president, and also other members of this board, and Superintendent Ramon Miramontes. I am Jacqueline Murillo, and my daughter is Cristina Ramirez. She is a student, and she's an English learning student who just finished 4th grade at Corey School.
Desde el 1er grado, el distrito escolar me ha notificado la forma de reclasificación para mi hija a una estudiante de inglés fluido proeficiente.
Since first grade, the school district has addressed the way the reclassification for my daughter, who is a student in English, and she's a Spanish English learner. I'm sorry, not Spanish.
Lo leo todo junto, si quiere, al final. Sin embargo, siempre he sido una madre que busca estar informada. En lo personal, no he dado mi consentimiento a la fecha para su reclasificación, porque he percibido que a Cristina aún le falta reunir la criteria de reclasificación que el distrito sigue bajo el Código de Educación, la cual me han informado en la carta anual del padre. Por ejemplo, este año mi hija obtuvo un nivel 1 en aire y literatura, cuando en la criteria se lista un nivel mínimo de 3. Ahora, en el examen NELPAC, ella alcanzó el resultado 2 en un área de lenguaje oral, que en este caso comprensión auditiva, y otro 2 en un área de lenguaje escrito, que es en el área de lectura. En la criteria se lista que debe existir solo un 2 en una de las áreas. En general, yo siempre he visto que a mi hija aún le falta que obtenga los resultados esperados para reunir esta criteria. No son suficientes. Me gustaría que a través de los comités ILAC y DILAC se ha explicado muy bien y a detalle al padre la criteria de reclasificación del distrito cada año. ¿Para qué? El padre tiene que tener conocimiento para dar su consentimiento informado para la reclasificación de su hijo. Además, creo que también es necesario informar bien al padre y a detalle del programa de monitoreo de los 4 años para los niños reclasificados y de cómo es el proceso de monitoreo en ese periodo. Adicionalmente, me gustaría expresarles que consideren la reclasificación alternativa para los estudiantes aprendices de inglés de largo término que están en educación especial. Yo estuve pidiendo esta posibilidad para mi hijo Owen Ramírez durante su estancia aquí en el distrito. Sin embargo, percibí que el equipo de la EPI no estuvo lo suficientemente capacitado para analizar el caso y poder dar esta reclasificación alternativa a mi hijo. Agradezco su consideración a los puntos y sugerencias de esta madre, que lo único que busca es colaborar en pro de la educación de nuestros estudiantes aprendiendo inglés. Gracias.
Since first grade, the school district has notified me the race classification for my daughter, who is an English learner. However, I've been always a mother who has tried to look for more information. Personally, I have not given consent on a date as far as when the reclassification for my daughter will happen, because I noticed that Cristina needs to meet with the criteria, I'm sorry, for the reclassification. And the district continues, the district continues to meet the education code. And they have informed me of the annual, which they've informed me with the letter, the annual letter. And so, for example, this year, Christina was at level 1, which is low level in the iReady in reading. And when this criteria is listed on minimum a level of 3, and the LPAC exam, she did get a 2, and it's an area of oral language and comprehension, audio comprehension. And she also got a 2 in written expression, which is in reading. And the criteria, it needs to be only existing in one area. Number 2, for generally, I believe that even though my daughter had these results, the expected results did not meet the criteria, and it's not enough. I would like that the ELAC and the DLAC committees explain in detail to the parent what is the criteria for reclassification for the district each year, so that the parents can give their consent, their informed consent about the reclassification of their child. Aside from that, I believe also that it's necessary to inform the parent in a detailed way about the program and monitor them from 4 years of age so that the kids can be reclassified. And through this process, they can monitor in this time. Also, I would like to express to you about considering the reclassification, considering an alternative reclassification for English learning students that are going to be at that are long-term English learning students in special ed. I was requesting the possibility for my son, Owen Ramirez. I was requesting this possibility for my son and Owen Ramirez during his stay here at this district. However, I noticed that the IEP was not enough trained, or the people in the IEP were not enough trained to study his case and for him to be able to be classified. And I really appreciate your consideration to my thoughts and my suggestions as a mom. The only thing I want is for us to collaborate and for the pro education of the students that are learning English. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murillo. Do we have Ms. Ramona Lopez?
Buenas tardes, señor superintendente, doctor Miramontes y miembros de la Junta del Distrito. Mi nombre es Ramona López, madre de un estudiante de este distrito. La razón de estar aquí hoy, para que me escuchen, por favor. Como madre que estaba por reclasificar a mi hijo del programa English Learner, de aprendices del idioma inglés, pero por falta de información a tiempo no lo reclasifiqué, ya que tenía muchas dudas. Yo veo en él ciertas áreas no dominadas y observando sus boletas de calificaciones, iReading, el test ELPA, no todos concuerdan, el cual fue mi duda, por lo cual pedí información, como es el monitoreo o supervisión si el niño empieza a tener problemas académicos en áreas señaladas antes vistas por la madre, después de la reclasificación, y cuál es la ayuda y cuándo, en qué tiempo se ofrecería, por lo cual, por favor, solicito reestructuren un entrenamiento apropiado a los padres con hijos en este programa de aprendices de inglés y a los miembros staff, front desk, oficinas, aparte de los que conocen el programa. Y si conocen lo que es un aprendiz de inglés y los programas que hay en las escuelas para ellos y cómo lo aplican. Ya que se le guiaría mejor al padre y no estar dando vueltas en círculos, que para mí no sería la primera vez que me ha pasado. Y vemos estos ejemplos de mis compañeras y el mío. Y si es posible adaptar un mejor entrenamiento, reestructuración y ver en qué estamos fallando y trabajar para que estos niños sigan progresando y alcancen sus metas. Gracias por escucharnos.
Gracias.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Miramontes. My name is Ramona Lopez. I am the mom of a student in this district. The reason I am here today is so that you can please hear me as a mom who was here. My son was reclassified for the program for English learners. And I didn't have enough information to have him reclassified because I was uninformed, or I was in doubt about certain things that he was not fluent in. And also some of his grades or report card on iReady and LPAC was not aligning, was not making sense. And so this made me doubt and this made me want to request information. How is the monitoring or the supervision taking place? If a child or student starts to have academic problems or needs in areas that were already we had already seen, how is the reclassification take place and what type of help is needed, and how is the time of this help going to be offered to him? I do request for the restructuring of this appropriate or adequate training to help parents with children who are in this program of English learners. And for this program to be available to the members, the staff, the front desk, and also people that don't know about this program. It would be good for them to know about this program for students with English learners so that they can apply the program. This program would help guide them much better. As a mom, I'm not wanting to go into circles and circles so that it wouldn't be my first time going in roundabouts or circles. I have seen these issues also come up with my fellow friends and in my situation as well. And if it's possible to adapt a better training, restructuring of a program, that would be great. What are we failing in? And we should work together for our kids so that they can progress and they can meet their goals. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. Trustee Ahmad, is there any comments from the remote location?
No, there is not.
Moving on to public hearing session, Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, pursuant to Education Code Section 52062 B1. The governing board is required to hold a public hearing session for the Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, that shall be held at the same meeting as the budget public hearing. Education Code 52062 B2 specifies that the LCAP public hearing be held at a separate earlier board meeting prior to the board adoption of the LCAP. The LCAP public hearing and LCAP adoption cannot be held at the same day. A copy of the draft for 2022-23 Buena School District Local Control Accountability Plan is attached to the online agenda and also available for viewing on the district website, www.bpsd.us. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I want to turn it over to Dr. Yvette Cantu, who's worked with staff from Ed Services and the fiscal department as well to come up with the local control accountability plan. They will talk about the plan today, and followed by Sandra Poti, the Chief Financial Officer, who will talk about the budget development process as well. Dr. Cantu.
Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. Good evening, Board President Frutos, members of the governing board, Superintendent Dr. Miramontes, district staff, and guests. We're excited to share our updated LCAP plan for the 22-23 school year with you this evening. As a true representation of the many educational partners, voices have come together in order to revise our plan. The process and the results of creating a comprehensive plan that represents all students in our learning community is truly an exciting adventure and much shared in the joy of a completed draft of the plan. So let's get started. Next slide, please. This is truly a joint effort through the departments at the district level. And I'd like to thank Sandy Poti, our Chief Financial Officer, for her support, Director of Fiscal Services, Neelam Qatar, Director of Curriculum Instruction, Michelle Centeno, which is a Chief Architect of this plan and who will also help present it, and our Coordinator of Assessment and Accountability, Natalie Benda. And again, we would much like to thank all of our educational partners that truly came together to create the draft that we present to you today. We'd like to acknowledge the time dedicated to the LCAP planning process by many partners, including staff, parents that represent many types of learners, community members, and students who are also involved in this plan. Together, we reviewed the data, district challenges, needs of our students, as well as how to support staff in meeting the needs of our students. Our goal was to again ignite the passion of all of our learners as they achieve at high rigorous levels. Next slide. Mrs. Centeno will now go into the process in developing the plan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cantu. So as Dr. Cantu just mentioned, the LCAP is a process. It is a process to develop this plan, and there are many, many people involved. So we began the process with a needs assessment, reviewing last spring's iReady data, which, as you may recall, the state allowed us to use as our local indicator, as well as last year's survey results from our LCAP survey, which identified strengths and needs for our current plan. That also helped us design questions for this spring's survey. We then began to gather input from our educational partners, and you're going to hear us use that term moving forward, educational partners instead of stakeholders. That is the new terminology that we are being asked to use. So we began to gather input from our educational partners through a variety of methods, as you can see on this slide. We had our LCAP survey that was given to all students, TK through 8th grade. TK was optional, K through 8th. We asked for that input, as well as to all of our parents, staff members, both classified and certificated, and to, again, our parents. So this was done during spring of this year, and we gathered lots and lots of information. Another source of information for us was our LCAP focus group interviews. So here again, we met with different educational partners, our students, our parents, our staff members, to ask them what was working with our LCAP plan, why it was working, and what some of the needs were that we still had as a district. Moving on, we began to develop the plan. Of course, we followed all of the state requirements. We did keep our 3 district goals aligned to the 8 state priorities. And of course, we took a look at actions, budgets, and we had a review from OCDE. We have lots of expanded actions in our LCAP plan that really help to meet the needs of our students. This year, when we took a look at the data, we really looked closely at our iReady data from Diagnostic 1 to Diagnostic 2 to determine what academic growth and needs were in reading and in math. We really took an in-depth look at grade level data and subgroup data, such as our English language learners, low socioeconomic students, foster youth, and students with unique needs. We also looked at ethnicity, and we looked at the data by domains tested in reading and in math. And while we were able to see promising growth across both content areas in all grades, we know that there is still room for growth, and Dr. Cantu will highlight that shortly. Moving into the review and the adoption process. So we're here today to begin this process with our public hearing. Next time we come together, we will have a report on local indicators, and then we will submit to the county office pending board approval. So now let's talk about the actual LCAP plan. Next slide, please. So our LCAP plan has 2 main parts to it this year, and we begin with the supplement to the annual update for the 21-22 LCAP. So this current LCAP. So the supplement was based on section 124E of Assembly Bill 130, and it required districts to present an update on budgets and actions taken by the district. So the intent was to provide a snapshot or a point in time report related to the use of the funding that we received through the ESSER 3 funds, as well as, again, implementation of the actions and the expenditures to that point. As you might recall, we went through this in February of this year. Next slide. In short, the purpose of the supplement was really to update and to highlight how the district utilized the additional funding received after the original LCAP was adopted in June of 2021, where we went from approximately 47,500,000 to just over 48 million in total LCFF funds. And with our supplemental and concentration, we went from approximately 10 million to 11,500,000. So an increase of 15%. Since our priorities reflected in the LCAP were already in place, we were able to amplify the actions in our LCAP. Next slide, please. And now the actual 22-23 LCAP plan. Next slide. Let's look at this a little more closely. So here are the 5 required sections in the LCAP plan. We have a summary of the LCAP and our challenges this year, as well as our successes. We talk about the engagement of our educational partners, again, through surveys, through our LCAP steering committee, through our focus groups. We took a look at panorama data. We looked at a lot of data in creating this plan. Of course, how our educational partners were engaged in the process of creating this plan and how their voice is reflected in the plan. We also needed to take a look at, again, the goals and the actions, and we determined how we would either amplify what we had in place or how we would increase some of these actions. We also had to talk about how we would increase or improve services to our, what we call unduplicated pupils, our English language learners, our low income students, as well as our foster youth. Lastly, of course, show me the money, right? The expenditure tables. So where and how is the money being utilized? Next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the data that we took a close look at. So while it was important to take a look at CAS data from 2019, that was a long time ago, to gain context as to where we were before the pandemic, the state, the county also expects that we're going to look at local indicators, current indicators of where our students are performing. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see that we are going to take a look at CAS and LPAC data. So that is coming back. We also took a look at iReady data, panorama data for all of our students, including our subgroups. Again, our unduplicated pupils. Next slide, please. So the engagement of educational partners. This is at the heart of our LCAP plan. As I previously highlighted, our district worked collaboratively with our educational partners and also with a consultant through OCDE. We wanted to make sure that everything was transparent and open, and we wanted to be sure that we provided meaningful opportunities for engagement and feedback from our educational partners for the 22-23 LCAP through surveys, meeting regularly during the spring, and of course, focus group interviews. Our LCAP steering committee was comprised of roughly about 35 members, both site and district staff, classified and certificated, bargaining unit members, our SELPA, and other community members. The function of the LCAP development process was to provide a comprehensive and strategic planning process through meaningful engagement of our educational partners, and of course, to provide accountability and to meet compliance. And now, our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Cantu, will share our 3 LCAP goals in more detail. Next slide, please.
As Director Centeno mentioned, the heart of our plan is the voice of our educational partners, our staff members, our families, community members, and most importantly, also our students. From the data gathered from our partners, we looked at the goals that would align with the needs identified by our educational partners. Goal 1, and the format now is we identify a goal, the local measures or the matrix that's now called by OCDE, which is our assessments. And our assessments are based on our state expectation of growth, overall growth, as well as looking at our subgroups. And then we go into the actual actions that will help us to meet the needs of our students based on the goal and the actions data. So the first goal is focused on student achievement through the Common Core standards, instruction, and measures taught by highly qualified teachers. This aligns with state priorities 1, basic services, state priority 2, implementation of state standards, and state priority 4, pupil achievement. Again, what we're all about, teaching and learning. So for this matrix, we looked at our iReady scores. We call it D1, which is diagnostic 1, which is our fall measure. And we're comparing that with diagnostic 3, which is our spring measure. For year 1, scores show an increase in growth of on or above grade level between diagnostic 1 to diagnostic 3, which we had 22% overall growth. By the end of the school year, diagnostic 3, we saw a overall 48% of students now showing early or above grade level standards, on or above grade level, which means that we had growth of our students up to 48%. We look at grade levels, I'll share that with you now. Our kindergarten students grew in reading 38%, are now above, grew 38%. First graders, 38%, second graders, 25%, third graders, 25%, fourth graders, 18% increase. Fifth graders increased 17%, sixth graders increased 14%, seventh graders, 14%, and eighth graders, 11%. And that is the spring diagnostic measures in the iReady for reading. Our subgroups show that our English language learners increased 21% between the fall diagnostic 1 and the spring diagnostic 3 iReady. Our socioeconomic disadvantaged students scored at 24% overall, but increased 23% from the fall to the spring. Our students with disabilities increased 13%. In iReady math overall, we increased 26% from the fall diagnostic measures. Again, if we look at our third diagnostic measures for kindergarten, we had an increase of 33%, first grade, 39%, second grade, 35%, third grade, 38%, fourth grade, 30%, fifth grade, 27%, sixth grade, 22%, seventh grade, 10%, and an increase in 4% at eighth grade. Our EL learners in math increased 22% over the school year. Our socioeconomic disadvantage group increased 25%, and our students with disability increased 15%. We know that we want the majority, as many students as possible at or above grade level, but I think you can all agree that using the measures of growth, we have much to celebrate across overall scores as well as our significant subgroups. Next slide, please. In goal 2, this goal represents having a safe environment, which means we have learners who feel confident and cared for in school sites, which allows them to attend school regularly and to engage in college and career readiness learning. We use these measures as our panoramic survey, which we have a survey, which is a social emotional areas of need for our students. In our primary grades, the teachers do a matrix based on their knowledge of the students. And third through eighth grade, our students actually take the survey themselves. Panorama survey results show that 44% of our students feel that they are able to come to school and have regulations of their emotions. That was our lowest area. And we know from the needs that we've seen in our behaviors of students that that is an area of concern that we will continue to keep eyes on and to work toward for intervention through our programs in every grade level, as well as our counselors and our school psychologists providing interventions. We did score 88.5% of our parents actually showed that they feel comfortable with the counseling that is provided as our school needs site. 93.7% of our staff show that they strongly agree with the students that the counseling service is making a difference. 80.1% of our students strongly agree that they can see a counselor whenever needed. Our attendance rate is at 93%, which we'd like to make sure we increase to 97% over the next year. The goals that we have for Goal 2 are aligned with the state priorities. 1, basic services. Priority 5, people engagement. Priority 6, school climate. And priority 7, which having a broad course of study for all of our students. We do want to point out that in our panoramic survey, results show that 86% of our students feel supported through their relationships with friends, family, and adults at school. Next slide. Goal 3 is a focus on parent, community, and student engagement. And this is an alignment with state priority 3, parent and family engagement, and priority 8, pupil outcome. As evident by our Goal 3, and all 8 priorities are addressed. Sites offered a minimum of 2 parent trainings this year around our academic needs, which was part of the survey results from previous school years. Also, our matrix shows that approximately 29 pre-K through 8th grade workshops and trainings were held throughout the school year by Educational Service Department. And we're using this as a way to indicate the local measures or how we were doing with parent engagement. We found that our parents appreciated the themes of our parent workshop, which were parent leadership, growth mindset, curricular programs such as iReady, CGI, Footsteps to Brilliance, Care Solace for SEL, working with our GATE parents, as well as making sure that any programs such as our CHIA at middle school and CGI at elementary had parent workshops to explain so that we can develop an understanding of those 2 curricular areas. Also for Goal 3, our local indicators show that we do have a significant number of parents attending our ELAC, DLAC, and LCAP steering committee meetings, but that we would like to increase that so that all of our subgroups are represented in these parent governing meetings. A total of 4 ELAC meetings are held at each site. 8 DLAC meetings, trainings provided by CAVE and EL parents, and 4 LCAP steering committee meetings were held in this past year. We did get special recognitions and kudos from OCDE in our efforts to make sure that our LCAP planning steering committee was done in a very open and transparent way. Although we have committee members that are identified to represent our community, they are open to any community member who would like to attend and participate in those meetings. So we are confident that we have a foundation for including our parents, both in governing committees as well as in workshops in an authentic way. But this is an area that we would like to continue to grow during the next school year. Next slide. In addition to our goals and action, the LCAP also must have an in-depth narrative on the increase or improved services, which Ms. Centeno will go over now.
I'm going to try to keep this part short for you guys because I know you're waiting for something else, right? All right, so increase and improve services. We really had to talk about how all of the actions under goals 1, 2, and 3 would help all students, but how some would principally help support our English learners, our low socioeconomic students, and our foster youth. So the state requires that for any action that we say is increasing or improving services, we have to justify it. We have to explain what the action is, how it supports these unduplicated pupil groups, and we also have to provide the data or the research behind the actions. So it is indeed an in-depth, it's one section of the LCAP, but it is probably the most in-depth section overall. We have a number of different actions in this area to really support our students, including social and emotional behavioral support, as well as academic support for our students. Next slide, please. That brings us to the end. Are there any questions?
I have a comment, I guess, leading to a question
Sure.
or comment towards action. I mean, LCAP's a beast, so good job to your team. I know LCAP's not easy.
I
And, you
know
know,
you probably, sorry to interrupt. I know you probably thought this presentation was long, but the actual LCAP is like over 100 pages.
no, that was really short, actually. It was very short, very short. Well, good job on concise and summarizing. And data is always interesting because, you know, you can tell a story with data in any way you want to make the story. And I'm a very competitive person. So when I look at numbers, you know, I want to be the best. And I know we're far from perfect, but I know everyone here strives for perfection. So that's a good mindset to have. Our motto that we adopted, you know, right before pandemic, you know, igniting the passion. So I think that's something hard to measure. So somehow, and then maybe next plans, what does it mean? How do we measure the igniting of the passion? So I think the data will always be something that we're going to look at and say, we can get better, we can get better. But when it comes to a lot of things we offer, it's not going to show up on these data points is all of the opportunities that our kids get. Like when we have the choral festivals, we have STEM programs, Beatty having a lot of, and Buena Middle School having a bunch of electives that offer ways to ignite passion. I think that data is not hard. It's hard to capture in these goals 1, 2, 3. I think we see it as the word student engagement. And engagement doesn't mean fun only, it means connected. And how do we measure that? So maybe that could be expressed for our community a little bit more, because data is always easy to share. Math and ELA, great or not great, but how is it connected to the passion? That's what we're trying to strive for. So I just want to throw that comment or a question of, can we find ways to then, for Unduplicated and all our students, how do you show the passion component being tied into the data? So maybe that could help in our story, in our narrative. So I just want to throw that in there, but great job. You did a really good job of keeping it concise. And didn't put a lot of numbers up there, so it didn't confuse us. So thank you for doing that. Just a comment I want to throw in.
Thank you. We appreciate that feedback. Also in the actual LCAP plan, we did survey our 6th through 8th grade students to see how they felt and to see if they felt that they had access to enrichment, elective classes, college and career readiness courses. So we didn't highlight it here. We will next time, but we did survey our 6th through 8th grade students and it is in the actual LCAP. We wanted to know, we wanted to hear it from our kids. What do they think? Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to say, could we get a copy of the results? I know they were said out loud, of the iRated diagnostics, if they could just send them to us, maybe we could read
Yes,
through them.
they are in the plan that you have a copy of, electronic copy of, and they are also those that can be found on the website. So they're in the matrix area. So after the goals follows all of the data that was shared. It is in the. plan.
Okay, then I'll ask if Aaron can send it to me because I wasn't able to access that.
We can definitely send it out to everybody, make it a little bit easier, send a
Thank
link
you.
out with all the information. And then Mrs.
Mrs.
Shedd, you had a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for sending the links to the results of the surveys in the Friday report.
Yeah, she's referring to the links in the Friday report that Mrs. Centeno's been sending out. Gosh, for the last 6 weeks, it seems like there's a different link with data, and data can be complicated, but thank you, Mrs. Centeno, Mrs. Dr. Cantu, for your efforts. I remember when we first started the LCAP, They talked about it being 10 pages.
Yeah.
That was my first year. It's never been 10 pages. It's never been 10 pages. And every year the format changes, every year. You know, they try and streamline it. I do think that most districts have gotten smarter about picking 3 goals. When we first started, I think we had 4 goals. Some districts had 8. And for every 8, you had to have actual items, right? So it was super complicated. I'm glad we condensed it now to just over 100 pages. But more importantly, what I'm most proud of is the efforts that our staff makes to make sure we have stakeholder input and we try and be transparent as possible. And I know, Mrs. Shedd, I know you've been on that LCAP steering committee all along. So thank you for your efforts there as well. Thank you both.
Great job. Thanks. That was pretty thorough. I was able to understand, even though I wasn't seeing the numbers, I was still able to capture the narrative behind the LCAP. But yeah, if we can give Mrs. Amar that link and that information.
Make
that'd be
sure
great.
everybody has it. Absolutely. If you're looking at numbers, Mr. Fructos, I've got a number person that can give you numbers. Just you want to see.
Yeah. I mean, any numbers that we can look at, we can,
Oh, wait, you
Gladly
gotta have
appreciate
some public comments from.
yeah, I got to slow down Dr. Miramontes here, along with Mrs. McPhillip, but we have to keep them on track a little bit. But is there any other comments here from the local, our board meeting location that anybody has? No? Ms. Ahmad, is there any comments from the remote meeting location where you're at?
No comments at 4:25 a.m.
I mean, I cannot blame him for not commenting right now. All right, so we'll be moving on to public session. 2022-23 Buena Park School District budget proposed pursuant to Education Code Section 42127. The governing board is required to advertise, hold a public session, approve and adopt annual budget for upcoming fiscal year on or before July 1st. A copy of the draft 2022-23 Buena Park School District budget proposed is attached to the online agenda and also available for viewing on the district's website, www.bpsd.us. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, I'd just like to turn over to Senator Potier, Chief Financial Officer. We'll talk about the budget.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Miramontes, community members and staff that are present tonight. We're going to go over the district budget proposal for 22-23. Go to the next slide, please. I'd like to thank the fiscal services team. I don't do this in a silo by myself. It includes our Director of Fiscal Services, Neelam Kakar, and our Fiscal Services Manager, Jennifer Wagner. So thank you to both of them for their assistance in preparing the budget. Next page, please. So the budget calendar. The budget, it's a year-round process. We propose a budget in June. The state has not adopted a state budget, so we come back in August with what's called the 45-day revision. This would include any major changes that have occurred from what we've adopted to what the state adopts, and then what we would, if we need to make any revisions. In September, we'll bring back the final report for last year for 21-22, or the year we're just ending. In December, we'll do what's called the first interim report. In March, we do the second interim report. And then next June, we'll be adopting the next budget. So it's a continuous ongoing cycle. Next slide, please. So our budget development includes enrollment projections. We look at our revenues and we look at our expenditure assumptions. Next slide. So enrollment overview. So for the last, since 2014-15 through the current year, 21-22, we've lost almost 1,000 students, 996. We are projected in the next 3 years to lose another 216 students. On average, 200 students for us right now is $2.4 million. Just to have an idea of what that 200 student loss is over the next 3 years. Next slide, please. So our enrollment directly drives our budget because enrollment drives average daily attendance, or ADA, which is how we are funded. The governor's budget has some proposals to assist us in this, as most districts are declining across the state. So current law says we can use the greater of the current year ADA or prior year ADA. The governor's proposal is adding a third prong to that, in addition to current or prior, It's called the computed average ADA using the prior 3-year ADA. Now, we are going to use this. This is what we've put into our budget because it was also proposed by the legislature. So it's highly likely that this is going to end up in the budget. So we are adding this component into our budget process. Next slide. There is an additional component for ADA relief called the COVID-19 ADA relief. I will tell you, we did not budget this. It would provide additional funding, but it is not in any other proposal besides the governor. And as you'll see, the legislature has lots of other priorities. So to minimize the risk, we have not included it, but I'd like to explain it in case you hear about it. It's called the ADA. You take your ADA to enrollment percentage from 1920. You take your ADA to enrollment percentage for 21-22. You compare them. The greater number, which for us would be the 94.9% for 1920, you apply that to your enrollment number of 21-22, which gives you a new ADA number for 21-22. So it could be up to 3802 for our ADA if we were to use this model. If you go to the next slide, just to show how we did what we are using, we took our 22-23 projected ADA, which is 3,780.66, our 2021-22 actual ADA, which was only 3,699.52, and our computed prior 3-year average ADA. So that would be 1920, 2021, and 21-22 across all 3 years averaged would be 4,063.52. So that is what we're using for our funding to build our budget for this year, is the computed prior 3-year average. If the COVID-19 passes, it would actually increase this rate because it would replace this 3699 number for 21-22 with a higher number, thus increasing the 3-year average. They are intended to all be combined together. But as I said, at this time, we did not include it for risk that it may not be approved. Next slide, please. There are other items that may not be approved that we didn't include. And just to show an example, the governor's May revise includes $2.1 billion in ongoing Prop 98 funds, just as a general increase to the fund balance for the LCFF. And as I mentioned, the COVID-19 ADA relief. The assembly proposal had a 15% COLA to LCFF, and then they created some additional criteria to define who was your unduplicated count in your LCFF. And the Senate proposed growing us by $10 billion by 24-25 as permanent ongoing increases to the LCFF. Because the state has a lot of money in Prop 98 this year, there's lots of options and ways to spend. So we've taken what we feel is confidently the most solid that we can use, and we're holding off on the rest until we get better knowledge, because the process is the legislature has until June 15th to provide a budget to the governor, who then has until July 1st to sign a budget. So they have not finished their process yet. We just have to go with what best data we have available right now. And then we'll, as I said, we can adjust at the 45-day revise if we need to make significant adjustments. So if we go to the next slide, there are some other things that were not included at this time that have been proposed. A one-time discretionary block grant. There's actually a proposal for deferred maintenance to come back for facilities, literacy support, inclusive early education. There's one for green buses and a proposal for multilingual libraries. They're all exciting proposals, but right now they're just proposals. We don't have any data and they've not been approved yet. So we'll continue to wait. Next slide, please. So what we do know and what we put into the revenue. So for the LCFF, we are doing a COLA of 6.56%. Universal TK add-on, this is a new thing this year based on TK going down to progressively going down to younger students. There is an add-on $2,813 per TK ADA. We did include that in this projection. We're using the computed prior 3-year average ADA, and then the rates that are listed here are the funding rates for the LCFF. The federal revenues, we receive Title I, Title II, Title IIIA, and Title IV. We don't anticipate any changes other than small amounts based on enrollment. those projections won't, realistic numbers won't come out until the fall. So we start with where we were the prior year. We have ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, which is our COVID relief dollars, federal dollars. Those cross multiple fiscal years. So what's budgeted is what we anticipate to for our expenditures in 22-23, and those funds, some of them will continue to roll over to 23-24 as well. For state and local revenue, again, the COLA was provided to the special ed budget, provided to the mandate block grant. Lottery is seeing a slight increase up to $163 per ADA, unrestricted, and $65 per ADA restricted. Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, which we'll hear about later, is anticipated to receive a significant increase. ACES program is still funded, along with all of our smaller grants, St. Jude, OCDE, 2-pay grant, our Coatson grant, and our DOJ 2-pay grant. So all of those components are built into our revenues. We could go to the next slide. Our staffing ratios have not changed. They're listed there. They're what we are contractual. Our statutory benefits are listed here. This is what we used on our personnel costs, but STRS, PERS, Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, and workers' comp, those get applied based on salaries. And those are how we build our expenditure costs. I want to highlight, if you go to the next slide, I want to highlight TK a little bit. Universal TK is unique. We are at 24-1, and it's a hard cap of 24-1. This slide shows the 3 penalties that we are subject to through Universal TK this year. Class sizes of 24 students at each school site. If we don't maintain that average, we'll receive a penalty for every classroom we needed times 24. If we don't have an average classroom ratio of 12-1 for a student to adult ratio, it's 1 teacher, and then you can have aides to make up your 12-1 in your 24-1 classroom. But if we don't maintain those aides, for every adult we don't have, it's times 24 times the per ADA rate of the penalty. And then again, there's penalties related to the qualifications of the teachers. If they don't meet qualifications, then we would be penalized as well. So there comes, the new TK program does come with some stiff penalties that's unique. So I just wanted to make everyone aware, when we make a change on a class size, or we're making adjustments, there's a specific reason, because these things are something that we need to monitor and stay in touch with. We'll go to the next slide. So our overall district budget for revenues. I got lots of numbers for you now. Got pages and pages of numbers.
I'm all ears.
Our unrestricted revenues are 51.4 million. Our restricted revenues are we project at 20.8 million, for a total general fund revenue budget of $72.3 million. When you break that out, it's 69% is from the LCFF, 12% from both federal and state, and then an additional 7% from our local revenue sources. We can go to the next slide. Our expenditures. Our total expenditure budget is 42.5 million on the unrestricted side, 28.7 on the restricted side, for a total fund of $71.2 million. 78% of our costs are for personnel. Employee salaries and benefits make up 78% of the budget. 20% is for supplies and services, and 2% is for other outgo. Next slide, please. So when you look at our overall revenues and you compare that to our expenditures, our unrestricted side has a positive excess of 8.9 million. Our restricted side shows a deficit of 7.9, but I'll explain that in a minute. And total fund is $1 million in the positive. But then at the bottom of the page, you have your contributions. If you remember, the only way you get your money into your restricted maintenance account is to transfer that money through the contribution process. And this is also how we fund our excess costs for our special ed. We have to contribute unrestricted dollars to the restricted side. So between those programs, we're transferring 8.6 million from unrestricted to restricted. So if you go to the next page, the net increase on the unrestricted side is a positive 309,000. Restricted is a positive 712,000, for a net increase of $1 million. So we are not projected to deficit spend in 22-23 at this time. When you add that to our beginning balance that we anticipate carrying forward, Our ending balances are 12.2 million for unrestricted, 4.6 for restricted, and 16.9 for the total ending fund balance. Next slide, please. So that $12.9 million gets to be broken down into components of ending fund balance. We're going to spend several slides talking about the components of ending fund balance. This is how we would traditionally look at it, with our revolving cash and stores set aside as non-spendable. Our restricted items of 4.6 million for our restricted programs. And then we have our other assignments that are listed that equal just over $10 million on a reserve for economic uncertainties of 3%, which is $2.1 million. I'll go into a little more detail as we go through, but this is how we would traditionally look at it. Go to the next slide. Proposition 2 requires us to discuss our ending fund balance and to talk about why we're carrying more than the required 3% minimum reserve. There's various reasons why. You look at your higher STRS and PERS rate, you look at unanticipated costs. Do you have a fire? Did you have a truck go out? Did you lose a bus? All of those things are things you need to be prepared for. For natural disasters, if we have declining enrollment significantly, we would need to have reserves set aside for that. If the state all of a sudden takes a dip in their funding when they begin to cut our funding, which has happened in the past, that the state cuts our funding, those are all reasons why it would be appropriate to have greater than 3% ending fund balance. So this is just, we are required to discuss it. And so we just want to ensure that we have talked about that. Yes, we know we have more than 3%. Now, if we go to the next slide, Proposition 2 also brought into play a cap on our reserves, saying that there's a 10% cap on your reserve, and the 10% is of your assigned and unassigned ending fund balance. So there are other areas of your fund balance, but the assigned and unassigned cannot be greater than 10% beginning with July 1 of 22. All the criteria at the state level were met that triggers this new 10% language. Now, our board policy and governmental accounting standards has the ability to do what's called committing funds. And tonight on the board agenda, there's a resolution later today to ask that we commit funds, and we go through and it identifies the categories that we'll commit funds to. And by committing those funds, it then removes them from the calculation of your reserve cap. You've done nothing with the dollars other than identify how you intend to spend them. But going through this process and going through the commitment and the resolution allows you to be in compliance with Proposition 2 and this reserve cap. So if we go to the next slide, these are the proposed recommended categories that bringing forward for the commitments. A carryover of any unspent supplemental and concentration funds to support the LCAP goals, a declining enrollment mitigation, a reserve in excess of state minimum. You'll see that right now we're recommending an additional 1.5%. Textbook adoption, being prepared for Affordable Care Act penalties, costs for post-retirement benefit obligations, and technology refresh and investments. So the resolution that is before you today allows that the categories are set and that the amounts get set at each filing period for the financial reports. So the amounts would be reset at each financial report. So if we could go to the next slide. So on the left is the ending fund balance, the way we've typically seen it, with your non-spendable amount, your restricted reserves, your 3% required reserve, and then all the assignments. So I'll walk through them. You have your Kid Connection Reserve. We've added a new state preschool reserve just to ensure we have funding for that program, that there's no hiccups. We are projecting $1 million towards textbook adoptions in future years. We have OPEB benefits or other post-employment benefits, $534,200. Technology reserve of $250,000. Affordable Care Act, $25,000. An additional 1.5% reserve in excess of the state minimum. You'll see there's nothing on the LCAP supplement in this year because we anticipate that all of the LCAP dollars are spent. Declining enrollment mitigation and a reserve capacity. The declining enrollment mitigation is a calculation of 200 students at the current rate for the LCAP that year. So if we were to lose more than what we had anticipated, this has set aside those funds for up to 200 additional kids that we could access and be able to continue operating through that. So the reserve percentage, our total ending fund balance as a comparison to the total expenditures, we have a 17.13 ending fund reserve. And our 3% reserve plus our reserve capacity, which was everything that wasn't accounted for, was our reserve capacity, was 9.2. That's the way we had looked at it in previous years and previous reports. If you move to the right side, the items that are in the kind of coral or orangey color, that's your 3% required reserve and your assignments. And the only things we've left in assignments are Kid Connection Reserve, State Preschool Reserve, and the reserve capacity. Those are then what are subject to the cap. And you can see that that then is only 9.63%. The other items would move up to committed reserves and are listed there, and they are valued at $5.3 million, and that would be 7.5%. So when we bring the budget back for final approval at the next meeting in June, assuming that the resolution for commitments has been approved, the right side will be how we will restate that. So we will change it to make it match the ending fund balance commitments on the right-hand side. Right now it reads as the left-hand side until we actually take action. And once that occurs, we would make that change just in those categories at the end. So move on to the next slide. So multi-year projections. So where do we go moving forward? So we projected out the COLAs. Those are fairly healthy looking COLAs. We will hope that those are stay in place. We'll see. Those are recommended by the Department of Finance and School Services of California as the projected COLAs. What our enrollment numbers would look like, what our projected ADA is off of those, which we project at 96.5%, what our funded ADA is, and which formula we'll use. So we've identified the appropriate funding formula for the next 3 years would be the 3 prior year average. What our unrestricted lottery and restricted lottery look like, our CalSTRS rates for the next 3 years, our CalPERS rates, and they are slightly going down, surprising, but that is the current rate, is they're going down just a tick. That unemployment insurance line, you can draw a line through that. That is a misstatement on here. That's not accurate. You'll see I have another line a couple down that says unemployment, and that is the right numbers. Social Security is at 6.2, Medicare is at 1.45. The true unemployment numbers are 0.50% in 22-23, our current year. And our 2 out years, it's anticipated it'll go back to 0.2%. And workers' comp is estimated at 2.25. All of those factors go into applying to our current year budget and then creating a 2 years out projection. And when we apply all these factors, we get an anticipated budget based on the best knowledge we have today for what it'll look like for the next 2 years. You could go to the next slide. So we've already covered the first set of columns in the for 22-23. If you look at 23-24, our revenues are anticipated to be 52.2 million unrestricted. Our expenditures are 42.7 for unrestricted. After contributions, we actually have a surplus of 816,000 for an ending balance of 13.1 million. On the restricted side, we have revenues of 24.4 million, expenditures of 28.6. We bring in our contributions, and then we still have a surplus of 547,000. After beginning balance is applied, the ending balance is 5.2 million. So our total expenditures for 23-24 would be 72.7 in revenue, 71.3 for expenditures, for a total surplus of 1.3 and an ending balance of $18.3 million. Our 24-25 has a projected revenue of 51.7 million. We have expenditures of 43.2 million. We have a slight deficit of 350,000. We'll be monitoring that. It's early on, but we'll monitor that to see what happens. Beginning balance is brought forward and then an ending balance of 12.7 million. Our restricted revenues drop significantly to 15.5 million. All of our ESSER dollars, our COVID dollars end in 23-24. So we drop from 20.4 to 15.5, just to bring that to your attention. You'll see our expenditures also go down by 23.7. So there's a lot of things that programs we've been running, things that we've had through COVID dollars that will be ending in 23-24 as we move into 24-25. Our contributions again of 8.7 million. Ending balance would be $5.8 million. So the overall general fund for 24-25 would have a revenue of 67.2 million, expenditures of 66.9 million, and an ending balance of 18.5 million. We could go to the next slide. So when you look at your ending fund balance and where you stand on your caps and your reserve percentages, this is your, we have our non-spendables in each year, our restricted reserves for each year, your 3% commitment required reserve for each year, your committed reserves across the 3 years. Bring attention to that we've added in 23-24 some additional dollars towards textbooks because that will begin to ramp up as the state begins their adoption cycles again. So we will anticipate we will need some additional dollars to go towards that. We're maintaining our OPEB, our technology reserve, our Affordable Care Act is maintaining. That additional 1.5%, of course, is fluctuating based on expenditures, the percentage of expenditures. The LCAP supplemental and concentration carryover. As I said, in the current year, we've budgeted all the dollars. We don't have a surplus. In the 2 out years, these are the new dollars that are coming in. So at this time, we wanted to set them aside as a reserve. We don't have an exact where exactly they'll go as we go through the LCAP process. Those would be used. But for now, in this multi-year, they would continue as part of your ending fund balance. Then we have our declining enrollment mitigation, which is the 200 students times the current year. So we've set aside some funding for that just to designate that if we had a significant decline outside of what was projected, we would be able to access these funds to continue to operate. Then you have your assigned ending balances of Kid Connection State Preschool and that reserve capacity, which is everything that's remaining. So you can see your reserves are going up across the 3 years from 17.13 in the current year to 18.26 to the third year of 18.93. Your percentage of reserves towards your state cap are all below 10%. And your committed reserves are listed there at 7.5 for the current year, 8.41 for 23-24, and 9% for 24-25. Go on to the next page, please. Just a quick overview of our other funds. We also have the Child Development Fund, which is where our state preschool program is located and funded from. Our Cafeteria Fund, which is for our child development program. You'll see child development is definitely spending down their balance. Their expenses exceed their revenue. That is intentional. They have a limit on the amount of ending fund balance they're allowed. They had to write a state spend down plan. So we are monitoring that, but we do have a requirement to spend those dollars down. And so that is anticipated over the next year. We have the deferred maintenance. It just has those few dollars, which we're hoping if the state funds it, we're ready for those funds to go right into that account. Our Fund 21 is our bond fund. So we have some money anticipated to be ending at the end of June 30 of next year. That'll all depend on how all of our projects fall out at the end of this year and how we earn our interest. Of our Capital Facilities Fund, which is based on our developer fees that are collected from folks who are doing development on their homes or commercial property development. Our School Facilities Fund, which is where we receive our money for any state matching grants that go into that account. And Special Reserve for Capital Outlay, which is our, has been carrying over for many years for Special Reserve. And it's earning redevelopment agency funds each year. And then we pay for projects out of that to assist our facilities projects. It's another place where we have facilities projects. And so that is our final fund. Next slide. Are there any questions? And I know that was a lot of information.
Is there any questions from anybody here on location? Ms. Ahmad, do you have any questions? Is there any questions from your
questions.
remote location?
No questions. I'd just like to thank everyone that put that budget together.
I'm sorry, Laura, can you repeat that again?
I just said that there were no questions, and I just wanted to thank for everyone that put together the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Potteet.
Thank you, Ms. Cookie. That was a lot of great information. And for the record, yours was shorter than Mr. Richard Holash's reports. So thank you for that. Now we'll be moving on to action calendar. Inter-district transfer request 2223 CHET 7. It's recommended that the governing board uphold the denial of inter-district transfer request 2223 CHET 7. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Thank you, Ms. Shed. Is there any discussion? With no discussion on the item, we'll move on to approve the item with roll call votes, starting with Mr. Chong,
Aye.
Ms. Shed.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Inter-district transfer request 2223 BEPE 1. It's recommended that the governing board uphold the denial of inter-district transfer request 2223 BEPE 1. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. Should I second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move forward and approve this with the roll call vote, starting with Mr. Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shed.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Inter-district transfer request 2223 HAKOK. It's recommended that the governing board uphold the denial of inter-district transfer request 2223 HAKOK. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. So second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Is there any discussion? Perfect. With no discussion, the item will be moved on and approved with a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shed.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Inter-district transfer request 2223 OCKOK. It's recommended that the governing board uphold the denial of inter-district transfer request 2223 OCKOK. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, the item will be moved to be approved with a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shed.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to public employee appointments. Giselle Mata, Principal of Charles G. Emery Elementary School, effective July 1st, 2022. It's recommended that the governing board approve the public employee appointment. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I talked about talent. I'm gonna share the talent we have before you tonight. We'll turn it over to our Chief Personnel Officer. He's gonna talk a little bit about Mrs. Mata.
Good evening, members of the governing board, President Frutos, Dr. Miramontes, and esteemed guests. I woke up this morning, 4:30 a.m. at about 12,000 feet in the high Sierras, shook the tents of the folks next to me to make sure they woke up, because I had some exciting news to do today, which was the introduction and recommendation of two amazing folks. We traversed fields of snow, crossed streams, hiked down granite boulders to be here this evening and make sure that we could honor and recognize these folks. I also want to just relay before introducing our first recommendation that Human Resources had an opportunity to meet together with the staff of both Emory and Beatty in order to speak with classified and certificated members and let them provide their input on what they thought was important in the next leadership roles. As such, we were able to gather a lot of information, which was put into a flyer for our interview panel to review prior to the interviews. We also modified the questions that were used in the interview process to make sure that we were soliciting the information that we thought would highlight what those staff were looking for. And so it's with great pleasure that I begin our first recommendation for the evening. We would like to announce administration's recommendation for the newest member to the Emory Eagles, Mrs. Giselle Mata, to the position of principal of Emory Elementary for the 22-23 school year. After a rigorous set of interviews and reference checks, Mrs. Mata stood out as a clear choice to support the amazing work that continues to be accomplished by the Emory staff and students. Giselle has a rich background in education with over 17 years of school experience from teacher, instructional coach, English learner specialist, assistant principal, and summer school principal. She has trained and implemented AVID, CGI Math, and PBIS. She has also helped to develop a dual language program in South Whittier and was even selected by the Orange County Department of Education to be a Project GLAD national trainer. Giselle received her master's in education from Loyola Marymount University and her administrative credential from Cal Poly Pomona. Besides cooking, she and her husband love spending time with their 3 children at Disneyland. Is that correct? And cheering them on in their sports. Our administrative team wholeheartedly recommends Giselle Mata as principal of Emory Elementary.
Motion.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Michelle. The second.
I'll second.
Take Ms. Amat from
I'll
long
third.
distance,
I'll third.
from remote. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong,
Aye.
Shed,
Aye.
Ms. Amat.
Aye.
No, I'm definitely an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you. And good evening, board members, Dr. Miramontes, cabinet, and esteemed community members. It is with humility and honor that I thank you for your appointment as principal of Emory Elementary. It is a privilege to lead Emory to its next phase of growth and to continue to prepare our scholars for college and career. I am an advocate of our students, a committed teacher at heart, and most importantly, a leader with an unparalleled dedication to providing our students, Emory students, with a home where they will soar. I am honored for your appointment as principal, and I look forward to our partnership together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mata. I think you had Mrs. Ahmad at Disneyland, right? So I'm gonna ask the family to come out and speak for a picture. We'll move on to the next one. The whole family here. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Ms. Mata. Welcome to the Buena Park family. Moving on to public employee appointment, Dr. Joaquin Valdez, Principal of Gordon H. Beatty Middle School, effective July 1st, 2022. It's recommended that the governing board approve the public employee appointment. Dr. Miramontes.
I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Harrison to talk a little bit about our next candidate.
Wonderful. We would like to announce administration's recommendation for the newest member to the Bronco team, Dr. Joaquin Valdez, as the principal of Beatty Middle School for the 22-23 school year. Once again, after a rigorous set of interviews and taking the input of the Beatty staff, Dr. Valdez stood out as a clear choice to support the amazing work that these students are doing on their career and college path. Joaquin has a rich background in education with over 15 years of school experience and has most recently served as in an assistant principal role for the past 7 years. During this time, he has worked collaboratively with the Los Angeles County Office of Education in the direction and coordination of PBIS and MTSS at his school sites, improving discipline, guidance, and attendance processes. He has significant experience and success with master scheduling at a large high school and has worked collaboratively with educational services in both Linwood and El Monte to assist in curriculum development, as well as working alongside staff to roll out successful implementation of programs. Dr. Valdez has also developed strong connections to enhance the articulation between middle schools and high schools in which he has served. Joaquin received his bachelor's degree in mental health from Cal State Fullerton, his master's in counseling from Cal State Long Beach, and his doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Southern California. He loves to spend time at the beach with his wife and children and finds time to ride horses with his daughter and skateboards with his son. I'm sure you both outdo him in those particular activities. Dr. Valdez looks forward to working alongside teachers and classified staff to keep the Broncos charging ahead. I would also like to share that I personally spoke with his current superintendent, who shared that their district had actually been grooming him for a principalship as well. So we know that we're getting a winning team member aboard. Our administrative team warmly recommends Dr. Joaquin Valdez as the position of principal of Beatty for the coming school year.
Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you,
Was
Mr. Cha.
hesitancy.
Do I have a second? Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, the item will be moved to be approved with a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Chong,
Aye.
Ms. Shedd,
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad,
Aye.
and definitely a yes, even though I'm also a UCLA fan, but motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President, Mr. Frutos, Board members, Superintendent Dr. Miramontes, and Cabinet, and esteemed guests. I'm humbled and thankful for the opportunity to serve the Buena Park community and the opportunity to lead students, staff, and parents of Beatty Middle School. I look forward to the great work ahead and to educate, motivate, and inspire the next generation of leaders. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everybody for the due diligence and the work that it took to hire the two new principals. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but I think we have two great new additions to our school district. So thank you for that. We'll be moving on to approval of negotiated contract settlement for the 2021-22, 2022-23 school year with the California School Employee Association, CSCA, Chapter 569, and approval of related AB 1200 disclosure of collective bargaining pending approval of CSCA Chapter 569. It's recommended that the governing board approve the negotiated contract settlement for the 2021, 2022, 23, and approve the related AB 1200 disclosure of collective bargaining pending approval of CSCA Chapter 569. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Mr. Harrison and his team, the negotiation team, and Lori Cannon and the leadership from CSCA that came together. I want to turn it over to Mr. Harrison, who will talk a little bit about the process.
Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. Similarly, I want to make sure to reach out and give the thanks to Lori Cannon as president of CSEA, as well as the rest of the CSEA's bargaining team. I'd also like to thank the members of the district's team, Sandy Poteet, Yvette Cantu, Lori Smock, and Tony Traster. As we worked together, this was a successor agreement, which means a lot of articles were open, and we spent quite some time working on a lot of details for smaller language types of aspects, but they still took time. Materially, though, I'd like to spend some time just discussing what the proposal is related to the compensation plan. We did agree upon a 2-year compensation plan. So for the 2021-22 school year, a retroactive on schedule raise of 2.5% plus a 2.5% one-time bonus. Then for the following year, coming up now in the 22-23 school year, effective July 1 of 2022, an additional 2.5% on schedule raise and a adjustment to the hard cap in which the district will contribute a larger proportion towards employee benefits. That is the final compensation package that we came together with, and that was in agreement with CSCA. Thank you for letting us share just a brief bit about that. And again, thank you to the teams that worked so hard on this particular aspect. Pending approval, of course, by the governing board, we turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Frutos, may I just interject one thing? Did want to let you know I received a text message from Lori Cannon today. This particular agreement has been 610 approved. It will be going to ratification by their members probably within the week. So this approval is pending CSEA ratification by their membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. I'm going to restart and re-motion. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Shad. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote. Mr. Chong?
Aye.
Ms. Shad?
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval proposed changes in employment terms of confidential and management employees. It's recommended that the governing board approve of the proposed changes for confidential and management employees. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, now that we've settled with and the board has approved the contracts for BPT at a previous board meeting and CSE tonight, I'd like to propose changes in employment terms for confidential management employees. Russ, do you want to talk a little bit about what those look like?
Sure thing. In good faith, management and confidential are recommended to receive the same compensation plan as just mentioned for CSEA. In addition, would like to point out that our certificated directors will be moving to a positive work calendar. What this will allow them to do is determine the same number of days that they worked previously, but by marking those in advance on a calendar. What this will do will eliminate the accidental amassing of vacation days. We know how busy we all are, and many times it's difficult to find enough time to take those days, and those can build up on the books and basically creates kind of it's the word I'm looking for, a liability to the district as those days begin to increase. And so we're moving to that particular model. Finally, well, I'd like to point out that a separate study was done on neighboring districts.
Oh, yep. That's the next one.
Yes. This is related to vacation. And what we did find was that there are no districts in Orange County who have their classified managers begin with solely 10 days of vacation. Typically, to come to a management position, an individual has indeed spent a significant number of years building up their skill base. And we have found that all other districts provide anywhere from 22 to 24 days as they begin. So our current model has actually led to some folks turning down positions in the past, or other individuals who have, when doing an exit interview, I have found that one of the reasons that they left our district was because they had spent a long time in their career to come to Buena Park and find that 10 days of vacation was something that was not quite workable for them at this particular point. And so we are recommending a revision to that, in which a new employee would begin at 18 days of vacation, and each year thereafter for the next 5 years, earn one more day to a maximum of 22 days. And so those combine the recommendation to the governing board with regards to the compensation package for management and confidential.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, the item will be moved to a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd,
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of identified CSCA confidential and manager employee reclassification. It's recommended that the governing board approve of identified employee reclassification. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, so we do these studies throughout the years, and I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Harrison, talk a little bit about what the study looks like for both CSCA and for confidential management employees.
Thank you. One of our district's longstanding LCAP goals continues to be the ability to recruit and retain high-quality staff to enhance student instruction and the district's goals. This could be accomplished in several ways, as demonstrated in this particular action item. One way of making sure that classified staff are properly compensated for the work that they accomplish on behalf of the district is through a reclassification study. Within an organization, there are trends that can lead to the accretion of higher levels of duties over a period of time. And when this occurs, the impacted employee is able to request a reclassification study to be conducted. The CSEA contract lays out the process and the timeline for such requests. And this past year, we received 2 such requests submitted to the Personnel Services Office. To provide a fair and unbiased process, we brought in the independent expertise of Educational Support Services, also known as ESS. A desk study was conducted for each of these 2 classified employees, including a written and verbal interview with both the employee and the immediate supervisor to obtain accurate analysis of the work that's conducted over the past few years. A final recommendation report for each study is prepared and provided to the district administration for consideration. And in both cases, the ESS report this year found that the respective employees had indeed taken on more complex duties over the past few years. After analyzing similar jobs in neighboring districts, a new revised jobs description was provided, as well as a recommended corresponding salary increase. And those are included on the attached item there. This information has been relayed to our CSEA president, and with the intent to recognize and retain the quality work of these individuals, administration recommends the approval of these reclassifications.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
That is a portion of the item. Dr. Miramontes, I don't know if you'd like me to continue.
Yeah, I think we've talked in closed session about the confidential management employee reclassifications as well. You know, we, as Mr. Harrison mentioned, it's important for us to retain our candidates. Our directors, I'll just use that as an example, all took pay cuts to come to Buena Park. They took pay cuts as principals to come to Buena Park. And directors, well, not directors, but as coordinators, right? Putting them on the positive work calendar is a good thing, and I know the board has asked to do that as well, to limit the liabilities that we have when it comes to vacation payouts. But I also think it's fair to look at other comparable districts. And you have received a table that talks about where Buena Park stands. You know, for our teaching group, we try and stay in the top third. We will make every effort alongside the salaries to make sure that, you know, and benefits that we stay competitive with other school districts. It's the only way we're going to get better teachers. Well, that goes for our management confidential employees as well, right? So I think it's important to recognize the work that they do and pay them for the work that they do appropriately. That's I'm not asking for, and they're not asking to be at the top. They're not even asking for this. I'm asking for it. I'm asking because I want to keep good quality people here. Our employees sit at the bottom, right? And they're doing great work. You heard a report tonight from Sandy Poteet that talked about where we stand financially. We're at a good time right now. We're at a better time. 2-3 years ago, we weren't at a good time. Mr. Holash and myself didn't take anything a couple years ago. And I don't point that out to point things out, but when we see things that when we can do things, let's do things. You heard a great LCAP report today. A lot of work went into that. A lot of work has gone into what Dr. Simonowski does, what our directors of special education and ed programs do. I mean, they are truly the nuts and bolts that crank through each and every day when it comes to the ed services side and programs for all our students. Our chiefs, sit at the bottom as well. Even with the steps that I'm recommending, they're only going to move up to from number 9 to number 7. And that, again, depends on these other, we've settled, that includes 2 years worth of this year and next year's raises, right? If another school district settles for even a 1% raise, I believe, they bump up, so they move back down to their respectable number of number 8. But again, I go back down to, I want to keep our good people and I want to keep them happy. I think they are happy. I think they think that they have a nice boss. A boss that's got a boss that's got nicer bosses, so to say. But I hold them accountable. I hold them accountable for the work that we do together collectively. So I think it's fair that we pay them and compensate them as we would any other of our employees, such as the CSA reclassifications. Mr. Harrison although CSA asked for 2, we also asked for another study for a position, classified position that wasn't completed. But soon I think we'll be bringing that one forward as well. Person that I don't want to lose, that has been poached by other districts because of the knowledge that she has in the area of special education. I want to compensate for the work that she's done, and I want to keep her in Buena Park. And I believe she wants to stay in Buena Park. She's not looking, but the fact that it was the administration management that said, let's look at a study to do this. I think she felt very, and not that CSA would have, but they can only do a certain number every year, right? And so I think it's Aaron McPhillips takes care of myself and the board. It doesn't matter the size of school districts. Typically your executive assistant takes care of your superintendent and your 5 board members, right? And so I asked the board to approve this this item here and these reclassifications move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Miramontes. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Michelle. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote for approval. Trustee Chong?
Aye.
Shed?
Aye.
Samad?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes 4-0. Adoption of expanded learning opportunities program plan. It's recommended that the governing board adopt the extended learning opportunities program plan. Dr. Miramontes?
Yeah, I want to thank our director of education program who's been leading this work. It will fall under Mary Beckelheimer, the administrator for early and extended learning, but Mary's got her hands full with just CSPP and getting that started. So I want to thank Sari Wang, who stepped in and is leading her efforts with the SOARS program, and I'll turn it right over to her.
Good evening, Board President, Fructus, Governing Board Member, Superintendent Dr. Miramontes, Executive Cabinet, and our remaining guests. Tonight, I am pleased to share Buena Park School District's plan for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program called SOARS, that stands for Student Opportunities for Achievement and Reaching Success. So for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, it is provided and funded through Assembly Bill 130 and amended with some amendments made in AB 167, providing before school, after school, summer intercession learning programs that focus on developing the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs and interests of pupils through hands-on engaging learning experiences for our students in TK through 6th grade. In addition to that, Ed Code 46120 does recommend that we partner with our community organizations to maximize the learning opportunities we can provide for our students during expanded learning time. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Next slide after that. So for the requirements for Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, they do ask us for the 180 school days during that time that we provide the Expanded Learning experience in person. It can be provided before and after school, and then that the program is not less than 9 hours. So if there is a core instructional day of 6.5 hours, that the remaining hours will of expanded learning will equal a total of 9 hours.
In addition to that, ELOP is asking to offer at least 30 non-school days of learning for our students during intersessional periods. And this is to be provided in person and also no less than 9 hours per day for those 30 days. Next slide, please. So the intent of the legislature to provide the expanded learning opportunities program for our students is so that it is a program that is student-centered, that is results-driven, and that we partner with our community partners to provide learning activities for our students that do not replicate and duplicate what's done during the school day, but something that complements our school day learning for our students. The focus of ELOP is to offer and provide access as one comprehensive after-school program or before school program for all of our unduplicated students in TK to 6th grade. And as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the requirements of time, that we are to provide 9 hours of school day for our students during the 180 days of school days and then 30 intercession periods. With the program plan, we are to, as included in today's agenda, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program plan is to be connected to the quality standards and for it to be approved by our governing board. And once it is approved, for us to post it on our website for our all of our educational partners to see it as well too. And to note that the plan is a working document. It's something that we will constantly go back to, make adjustments to, make updates to, so that it is current to what we are practicing for the Expanded Learning program. The funding is provided to LEAs based on the percentage of unduplicated TK to 6th grade student counts. Next page. As funding is based on the unduplicated pupil count, the offering and access to ELOP is also based on the school district unduplicated pupil counts as well. So LEAs within a UPP at or above 80% must offer an expanded learning opportunity program to all TK, their 6th grade students, and also to provide access to those students, and of course, upon parent and family request. For LEAs that are below 80%, they must offer an expanded learning opportunity program to all TK to 6th grade unduplicated pupils and provide access to 50% of the TK to 6th grade unduplicated student counts. So at Buena Park School District, we are a little bit over 80% in our unduplicated student counts. Therefore, we would need to provide or offer our expanded learning opportunities program to all of our students. So with that said, the state and the county is in recognition that with all of our school districts launching this program, that we do want to provide access to all of our students, but there may be some staffing needs, there may be some space and facility needs where we may have to have a priority list criteria to make sure that we are providing access to our students in need, and also to make sure that we're mindful of our community needs as well too, and make sure that we're meeting our equity purposes as well. Next page, please. So some of the components of our ELOP, first of all, as we do have a current ACES program, our state is asking that our program is aligned as closely as possible to the ACES program. In addition to that, as I've mentioned earlier, our Expanded Learning Opportunities program is to be one comprehensive program. In addition to that, in terms of the requirements for our student to staff ratio for 1st to 6th graders, they're asking that it is 20-to-1 ratio. And for TK to kinder students, it's 10-to-1 ratio, staff to student ratio. And in our ELOP plan, there are 11 elements to it. And included in that, we do mention the safe and supportive environment that we'll be providing, activities that will provide skill building for our students, active engagement for our students, opportunities for our students to have learning to expand their youth voice and leadership. And of course, it is all aligned to our district's mission and vision. So our program, as we build and provide the program, it is aligned to our district mission statement to, ignite the passion of our students, for our students to pursue their high achievement as well too. Next page, the next slide. So for our Buena Park School District SOARS program, we do have special names for each of the programs that we're providing as one comprehensive program under SOARS. So for our TK to second grade students, it is going to be SOARS Explorers. This will be provided with partnership with our Boys and Girls Club, our Buena Park Boys and Girls Club. We do have the SOARS Pilots program, which is for our 3rd through 5th grade students at 4 of our elementary schools. That will be provided through our CSUF ACES program. And then for Emory School, since they do not have the ACES program there, that Pilots program will be provided by our community partner, Boys and Girls Club. We will also have our SOARS Navigators, which is our ACES program at our middle schools for 6th through 8th grade students. That would be provided through CSUF. In addition to that, we'll also provide through BPS SOARS enrichment. So this is something that we will be providing enrichment opportunities for our 3rd through 5th graders at each of our elementary school sites, in partnership with ASEP SoCal. And I'll go into a little bit more detail in our later slides with what those opportunities will include. And in addition to that, we'll also continue to provide our Morning Kid Connection program, which would be a continued fee-based program at 3 of our sites, Corey, Pendleton, and Emory. Just to inform you, we have been having our weekly meetings with our community partners, with Boys and Girls Club, with CSUF, ASEP SoCal, and our BPSC staff and Kid Connection as we're planning for next year's launching of SOARS.
I did have a board member, just let me interject here. I did have a board member ask, should kids want to be part of Kid Connection, will be offered? Absolutely. It still, again, has to be fiscally doable, but yes, we can run that program simultaneously. We may need to if we have too many students and parents need childcare. Still our childcare program. Kid Connection does childcare. The ACES program, or the SOARS program follows the ACES model, which are 2 different things. And so we'll be able to offer Kid Connection should we have the number of students that make it doable to do so.
Yes. Next slide, please. So this next slide is just a sample schedule of what our SOARS program will look like. And we did base it upon or align it to what our ACES program schedule looks like. So it will be starting right after school, whether it is at the middle school or at our elementary school sites, and it will go till 6 p.m. So that is a total of 10 hours of learning for our students. I know that with the minimum requirement with the LOP, it was 9 hours, but we will be providing a total of 10 hours to go to 6 p.m. as we have experienced the needs of our families to have services for our students till 6 p.m. So our daily schedule will include, snacks, nutrition time, academic support time, and enrichment opportunities time, indoor, outdoor activities time as well too. Next slide, please. So this slide shows a little bit more detail on our Thursday enrichment for our 3rd through 5th graders that would be provided by ASEP SoCal, our partners. So we will have different sessions provided in 6-week sessions for our students, which will include chess masters, comic creators, STEM bots, Cube Club. And at the end of each 6-week session, we will have culminating activities through tournaments and showcases for each of these activities. So this Thursday enrichment will not only be offered to our students that will be enrolled in our enrolled in our pilots program, but it will be also provided to students that are not in those programs that may want these enrichment opportunities. Next slide, please. I did want to mention that we are awaiting the approval of the trailer bill where there may be some updates in terms of language of providing access to ELOP for our students. Currently, it's 80% or above that we would need to provide ELOP to all students. If the trailer bill is approved, they're looking at that percentage to change to 75% or greater. We're also with the if the trailer bill passes, the funding per pupil will also change as well too, that there will be quite a significant increase of funding if the trailer bill passes, in addition to some plans for auditing and some compliance language that comes along with the trailer bill. So I was just informed by OCD today that we're looking at possibly, hopefully, end of the month results of the approval of the trailer bill. And of course, we will inform our governing board of any changes that will come up with the trailer bill. All right, with that said, are there any questions regarding our SOARS program?
So clarification would be that once we're above the 80% threshold, so anybody that wants to be part of SOARS can be signed up for SOARS.
Yes,
With the caveat of possible priority based on
yes,
space and stuff. So
yes.
every person can be considered for this if they sign up.
Mhm.
And that would not be physically possible to do so. If every single student, we just don't have enough money to do that.
Right.
Right, so yeah, so there's a priority list for sure that we've got to work through. I think at one time we were teetering between 79 and 80 and 81, and there's so many benefits one way or the other. The bottom line is we qualify, we'll serve the community, how we serve the
Right.
community.
But the information regarding our SOARS program will be definitely accessible for all families to have, so that they have the opportunity to sign up.
And then if on enrichment Thursday, if a parent wants to leave early, they can pull their kid out anytime they want to go, right? That still counts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. When I saw this, it really excited me because it gives us another layer to service our community and our schools and our students. I know I brought this up in conversation at home, and my now TK going into kindergarten heard about the Boys and Girls Club, and she's all excited to want to participate in such program, right? But that just goes to show the relationships that we have built with the Boys and Girls Club, with ACES program, Kelsey Fullerton. They provide us with a lot of great stuff. And I'm just really excited to see, see this move going forward in the enrichment part. And, I like the sessions that we have here, but I think just most importantly is just adding that extra layer of enrichment and education to our district and our schools, and giving our families a little bit of more time for their children to be at school, especially if they get out of work late. The children can be there a little bit later, and yet still do some homework and not feel like, they have to get home and not be able to accomplish what their day was. But just overall, I'm extremely ecstatic and excited to see this SOARS program soar as we move forward. So.
I will say also it's not easy with the great resignation going on to find people to run these things. So kudos to having a great plan, because it's not easy trying to fill partners and people. It's a real thing. It's a real problem, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. I see daylight in our remote location with Ms. Ahmad. Is there any comments over there?
No comments
All right,
at
go on.
5:37 a.m.
Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote for approval, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd?
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to approval to accept the Coton Foundation grant, recommended that the governing board approve and accept the Coton Foundation for the Art of Teaching Fund. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, we've got great partners with Coatson. We've got a couple of schools, 3 schools participating. This is for year 2. This does not include Whitaker, correct? Dr. Cantu? This doesn't include Whitaker. It only includes the 3 current sites we have. Just so the board knows, Whitaker was accepted for a round 2 of the next group coming through. Oh, it does include Whitaker. Fantastic.
A motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Strong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote for approval, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of resolution number 21 through 33, education protection account. It's recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 21 through 33. Dr. Miramontes.
I'm gonna turn it right over to our chief. Let's call it education protection account.
Thank you. The education protection account was created back when the increase of taxes, and when they extended that increase of taxes, they established that the money would go into a special fund. It was not actually additional dollars to school districts. It was an additional accounting that we cannot use it for any administrative purposes. So this is an annual resolution that we do, and we recommend that we use it for instructional salaries for the district.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any discussion on this item? With no discussion, move on to approval for a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of resolution number 21 through 34 to establish temporary interfund transfer of special or restricted fund monies for fiscal year 2022, 2023. It's recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 21 through 34. Dr. Miramontes.
This is just basically doing that, asking the board to allow us to transfer any funds. Should we need to do that? I don't see a need to have to do that, but should we need to do that this year? We have your approval to do so.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Strong. Is there any further discussion on this item? With no further discussion, the item will be moved for approval through a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to approval of resolution number 21 through 35, approval of committed fund balance general fund. It's recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 21 through 35. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, you heard our chief financial officer talk about the committee fund balance. Now we're just asking the board to approve this resolution so we can move forward and do so.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Mock. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any further discussion on this item? With no further discussion, this item will be moved for a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval to purchase technology supplies, technology equipment, technology software, and technology service from Bloom USA Incorporated via CMAS California Multiple Award Schedules contracts. It's recommended that the governing board give approval to purchase from Bloom USA Inc. via the listed CMAS contracts. Dr. Miramontes.
That's exactly what it is. It's the CMAS thing. I think our chief operations officer put this together along with the fiscal services department. It's the easiest way and cheapest way to buy some of the products in the budget.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any further discussion on this item? With no further discussion, this will be moved on to a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
Now I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Approval of change order to Chapman Coast Roofing bid number 2022-03 Whitaker Roofing Project at Whitaker Elementary School. It's recommended that the governing board approve the change order to Chapman Coast Roofing. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, we had a change order of about $1,300 from the original price. We're just asking the board for approval for that work, so we can pay the vendor.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any further discussion on this item? With no further discussion on this item, it will be moved for approval through a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Moving on to consent calendar, unless a trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar. The items were approved at one point by the governing board. Start off with Mrs. Ahmad,
I have nothing.
Mr. Chong,
Nothing.
Ms. Shedd,
I don't have anything.
and I have nothing. Do I have a motion, a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Is there any further discussion on this item? With no further discussion, it will be moved for approval through a roll call vote, starting with trustee Chong.
Aye.
Shedd,
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Information and correspondence, major topics 2021, 2022, and 2022-23. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, the next board meeting is, well, we will, let me take it back there. We have planned for June 23rd at 6:30 for the special meeting to fill the vacancy. Should we have any candidates move forward with that? Then we've got the June 27th, a regular June 27th meeting. And then we're working on a different date for the board tour. It might be on a Saturday, the weekend prior to the first day of school starting with our special projects. Since I know that our Mrs. Lakmat is not back until a few days before that, and I think a few of you are working that week of August 8th. So we're looking at that weekend, or the following weekend, the weekend before school starts. But I'll work with President Pucos on what that looks like. Quick 2-hour tour to see all the projects that we have for 3 hours. And then we'll take the staff out there as well, so they can see what's happening in their sites.
Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. We'll be moving on to closed session conference with Dr. Ramon Miramontes, Superintendent of the Buena Park School District, Labor Relations, Buena Park Teachers Association, Government Conference Code number 54957.6, Labor Relations, California School Employee Association, Chapter number 569, Government Conference Code 54957.6, Labor Relations, Non-Represented Management and Confidential Contract Employee, Government Conference Code number 54957.6, and Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. We'll go to a roll call vote. Mr. Chong?
Aye.
Shedd?
Aye.
Ms. Ahmad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. The governing board meeting is called to close session at 7:46.
I can't hear you guys. Mics are not on yet.
Can you hear me now? Okay, rising. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Daryl, you look like you're ready to go run a mile. You're ready to, you're not even sleepy.
I'm not even sleeping. That's it. I'm not just not gonna sleep. I'll just sleep on the plane.
Go jog right now. Go work
You're
out.
gonna be running on just adrenaline, huh?
Like your blackout shades, like it went from dark to light. That's
Yep,
awesome.
yep.
All right. Reconvene. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Michelle.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ahmad. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Chong? Aye. Shed?
Aye.
Samad?
Aye. Sorry for all the roll calls, people.
Oh, no.
No problem.
There were good tongue twisters for me and I got to practice a lot, so we're good. And I'm an aye, motion passes 4-0. The governing board meeting reconvenes at 8:03. Reporting out of closed session, let the record reflect that no action was taken in closed session. We'll be moving on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Shed, and we'll do a roll call, starting with Mr. Chong.
Aye.
Shed,
Aye.
Samad,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, motion passes 4-0. Governing board meeting adjourned at 8:03.